Okay, let's see if this one works. Okay, let's see if this one. One second, guys. Trying to get the restream chat so I can see what's going on. Okay. There it goes. Okay, I'm only seeing 2 of the 3. How's it going, guys? I'm not seeing any chat. There it comes in. Okay, I'm having trouble connecting to Facebook, guys, so in a second. What's going on? How's it going? Do you see? One second, I'm gonna close down and restream and get this thing going. Because it's still connecting. Sorry, guys. Let me get this a bit closer. Is that better? Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, it looks like Facebook finally connected. Alright. I'm going to close down so I don't see what you guys are seeing. So, okay, welcome to ZBrushLIVE. My name is Briley. I've been a character artist for quite a while. I have over 20 years of video game experience and coming from illustration and Disney before that. So, can everybody hear me okay? Yes, no? Okay. So, just wanted to give you guys some feedback of where I came from. Like I said, I've been in the game industry for quite a while. You can find more of my work from, ZBrushLIVE.com. And you can just view over top of some of my work. I range from pretty much Disney to death. I range all over the place in different styles, coming from realism. So you can find some of my work there. I've had the pleasure of working on like Warhammer and Rage, and Wolfenstein, Halo Wars, Age of Empires, quite a bit. And had a chance to do a couple Dominance Wars, which some of you might recognize me from. My nickname is Spark. B. Briley, or Briley is my real name. So here's some of the different stuff. This was Void from another Dominance War. Some of these things are kind of old, but again, it's kind of stuff I have done, my own personal stuff. But, this is Robo Hobo, etc. So you're welcome to kind of check out a lot of different stuff that I've done over the years. And like I said, my background was 2D, so a lot of times stuff I did illustration. This is stuff I did for Age of Empires. You click on a dog, you'd see a dog, etc. for the game. I also do 3D prints. These are some of the stuff that I've had printed from Ownage. Was the company that actually helped produce this for me. So this is some of the different things that I've done. This is the Cerebrum Kit that I had done. So you can actually see some of the different kits. Sorry if this is a little bit slow, or it takes a little bit to load up. This is actually broken down into 5 different parts. But the beautiful thing about going from ZBrush to the 3D printing is that it's able to keep a lot of the sharp details, which of course I've learned over the years. Doing a character for games is different from doing a character to movies, and especially prints as well, because you have to think about how it's going to be acting, you know, the character, what can be done, what can't be done. This is Caterpillar print that I created. I actually did this character for ZBrush beta. I don't know if any of you have seen it, but it was Alien Jungle was the one thing, starting from a sphere and using Dynamesh. And I decided to take the character since I kind of liked it and finishing it out. And I'll be going over top of some of the characters' work today. Process, thoughts, that kind of stuff. Just playing around until you kind of get something. This is Cerebrum. I mean, not Cerebrum, Clover. Basically, it was just kind of thinking of like lily pads, rough rhino skin kind of thing. So his skin was more rough on the top, but as you see it, when you turn around, more of the fleshy bits would be exposed. So, and he was also another 5-6 pieces. I've had a tendency, like in some of my creatures, that for the bust especially, I wanted to add arms to actually give it a little bit more detail. But of course, I guess I got lazy and I never finished out the full piece by giving it legs. But and then this was the last piece called Gorarachnid. It's basically just a gorilla spider kind of thing with some of the predator feel to it, open mouth, jaws kind of stuff. And Onich did a great job getting it done. So that's some of the kits that I've done. Work on mobile. You can find these up in my shop if any of you guys are interested. I also have about a little more detail of where I came from, the games. Again, this site is a little bit, I need to update. I've had the luxury of working on some great titles with some great people over the years. So right now I think of about 29 titles in the game industry. Some of my older interviews, blog, and so on. You could also find my work, in case you're interested, to check it out at Instagram _Briley_art. I'm kind of new to it, so of course anybody to help out my stuff would be great. And how's it going, guys? I have bad eyesight, so I'm sorry if I'm having trouble reading some of the names and stuff, but thank you very much for taking the time to check out what I'm doing today. Hopefully it's not a boring time for you guys. So this is actually on my Instagram, just a little bit more to sit there and do some of my different creatures, different ideas, and also push myself into rendering and learning a little bit more on my artwork. Because a lot of times I have a tendency, or I have had a lot of tendency, to just do sculpts and stay away from color, because that's just in a whole other rabbit hole you can really count to. I also want to sit there and let you guys know that I'm with a group of guys. We're called Grimm. James Kane and Martin Verhoeven, phenomenal talents. We actually got together to do kits for Monsterpalooza and a couple other things, so this is what we're planning to do. So you can find us at Instagram.com. We are Grimm, and we'll be launching our website with items and things that we'll be selling pretty soon as well. So, and you can watch some movies and everything else. So hopefully you guys don't mind checking it out, and of course liking us and following us to it. So. Okay, so I guess we can get started. I wanted to go over today, just going to talk about how to start on some of the different processes. This is something new I've been kind of doing. I was thinking about how I wanted to run this little demo today. I was thinking about how a lot of people start with spheres, which is a great way to start for a lot of those people that understand anatomy or have had a lot of experience. But for somebody new coming into it, I was thinking about a different process. And a lot of this came from looking at, of course, I study a lot of traditional, phenomenal artists. There's just so much reference you can kind of look at. But a lot of the traditional artists are, work off actors' faces, and they basically create off of a mask of the face and build the character from that. So I was thinking, why don't we just do that in digital to sit there and get an idea to help use whatever faces, scans, items that you've kind of used to feel and create the creature from that. So to kind of help figure out some of the detail, because again, from this actor's face, they might have seen shapes and stuff that created or helped them get some ideas from it for this, or so on, just kind of building off on what they had. So how's it going, Brave? How's it going, everybody? So this is where I just thought it might be kind of helpful, and hopefully we have a good process that somebody can use and be done. So, and please excuse my dogs. I have 3 of them, so they might kind of jump in here and kind of give us some issues. And so, how I started this process is I grabbed a scan from 1024. There's a lot of great studios that actually give a lot of scan data that's kind of new, it's coming. And capture dimensions, a whole bunch of different ones that you can kind of find. But how I started this, guys, I just pretty much took the actor's face, and then I divided half of it to get the symmetry, because right now this is asymmetrical. So then I created an asymmetry face, and having some nice, happy accidents. Yeah, the dogs are gonna jump, and we got construction, so they kind of hear us. These guys keep me company. So. But, by splitting the face and getting some different things, I was able to get 2 different faces that could kind of give me a little bit different shapes to play with to get some ideas to be started. Once I did that, then I, dynameshed, of course, to carry any kind of the seams, and then I re-meshed it basically to give myself different levels to start with, so I can start playing. So again, I like to jump up and down in the levels, to sit there and push and pull, and do some different things from that. So, so on this one, let's go ahead and just get started. So I actually kind of like some of the shapes that we're kind of getting from this face, so I'm just going to take a look and see the forms from this. I want to kind of create, I think, an alien. So the first thing to kind of do, sorry, 1 second, guys, I got a spray bottle. Stop, Jackson. Just to stop them. Otherwise, it's going to be very hard to kind of think. But if I lock them up, then they drive me crazy. So on the nose, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll take, if we're going to take the nose back, that is going to start kind of giving us more of like the alien features, taking out noses, things that represent. You will notice all of a sudden starts taking away from the human feature and brings it back. And then I'm just going to start playing with the shapes that I kind of like. I see some of, like this nose bridge, and I've got a kind of interesting shape going, and maybe I just carried it out from here. Just flake that up. And you can just start slowly playing with things to see the shape of the face. Maybe I might bring the nose down, again playing with the shapes that I'm seeing from his face. I might just kind of bring this in by knocking back the cavities of the nose, playing up the bridge on the face, and I'll start getting. And honestly, a lot of times when I'm starting with characters and stuff, I try to concentrate on just giving myself some interesting shapes from the eyes. The eyes tell. Let's jump down a couple. And getting the eyes and the nose can really start defining the direction you want to kind of go. I think this guy, again, has some interesting facial features. So I'm going to bring this a little bit wider, start shaping his face. And I really like some of the shapes that I'm seeing within the eye section here. So maybe I might define this eye shape out, make some interesting shape here, and then kind of let's pull his eye out even a little bit more. He's got kind of like a weird section here, so I'm going to kind of define and smooth that out a little bit. So I just start looking for shapes. I've been having problems lately, guys, with my ZBrush kind of like skipping like stones, so I'm trying to figure that out. I think it was with the update of Windows 10 has been causing me a lot of issues. So excuse any kind of problems with that. Yeah, what's up, Alex? How's it going? Thanks for joining, man. Nigel, I mean, not necessarily go into detailing. I think because I'm starting from the scan data, I'm going to have a lot of skin details and stuff already in there to kind of help. I do go in detail in specific parts, but right now I'm just sort of just fleshing this guy out just to get the forms, because I'm looking off the face, trying to see what forms I like. to help give me the creature. So maybe I might play out the cheekbones a little bit. I see a little bit of this drooping, and I might just, I'm trying to make them a little bit more alien. I'm taking features that I see from the detail of the scan, but I'm going to start playing with that, and I'll bring that back in. It's just kind of, because I think I've played with a couple different scans, and I've been able to create some pretty fun creatures right off the bat because I see a lot of their facial details, you know, that help. Because when I am working from a sphere or anything else, I have a problem where I start going into the same pattern, the same shapes that I like. Even though I'm not saying that I won't do it into this one, but it kind of helps me see a little bit of the character. Gets my ideas going a little bit faster. So I might just detail, like here, if I go up in the layer, I see, you know, this shape kind of going, and again, there's that skipping. It's really weird. It's been kind of a challenge. You know, of the face, so I might pick up some of the details of this one. He kind of feels kind of smug to me, so I might play that up like he's a smug alien. That's a long game. To say he kind of has like a big forehead. I like to just break up some of that form. This. And a lot of the brushes that I'm using, guys, are just like the move brushes. I mean, on my list I have standard, move, flatten, pinch, clay, inflat, and dam standard. Those are the real basic brushes that I use. Of course, I have a lot of different brushes that I can go into and grab, but I have a tendency to just keep going back and forth, and I have them all set up on my hotkeys just to jump quickly to those brushes that I need. But as you notice right now, I'm just kind of building up this guy's head. Maybe push this out a little bit more. Let's go ahead and let's maybe accent this within just a little bit, reverse, and then, I don't know. Oops. And let's just kind of bring out that lip again to essentially the smugness. And I kind of want to play off this shape. So I'm going to widen his face again, and maybe just kind of play with these lines, bring them up, and detail to the, like it's kind of swooping. When I see some of the shapes kind of going down, like maybe I might bring up this shape to his cheekbone, leading your eye down and around. This is kind of down his head, I think. His face is looking really big, so let me kind of balance that out towards the back. Kind of working. So honestly, it's just like a lot of times just kind of playing with shapes that you find. Sometimes you have happy accidents and everything, and it's just kind of seeing what you like. And a lot of times what I'll do as well is I'll bring in spheres and kind of use them to interact, and I push and pull things a lot together, just kind of like taking different pieces of clay. Or if I like a specific thing that I'm not too sure what direction I might go, then I just can quickly just say, you know, duplicate, and I'm working on, I have a snapshot. I mean, we can play with morph targets, do a couple different things to go back to it and push and pull, which is great, but I would just say use these just as like different layers of snapshotting the character in time that you can go back or a different direction. So instead of going right, I'm going to go left on this guy, and I can go back and like, oh, that wasn't a great way to go. I'm going to go back to where I was having a pretty good time. And so on. But it's just like, it's just, you know, this is just a different direction to kind of try. And like I said, I just, for this demo, I just started looking into it because I've seen a lot of the scan heads. I've seen a lot of phenomenal artists that do some great things just traditionally to get to it, but I do know a lot of people have trouble with realism and anatomy, and so you'll spend hours and hours just getting something, whereas you can start from a scan, treat it like it's a traditional visual effects thing where you're just building the creature on top of that actor. So that's why I wanted to kind of go down this, and hopefully we get some good examples and to play with it. So, you know, I think bring down his cheek and let's just define some of the shapes a little bit more that are going. So maybe push and pull that up on there. Let's bulk that up a little bit, and maybe with this, that's a little bit too pointed, so let me go ahead and bring this out a little bit more. Because again, I'm trying to balance the details of the eyes. They're a little bit big. I want to bring them in a direction, but I don't want to sit there and over-emphasize the eyes. And this needs to go a little bit, I think, more balanced, and I'm going to balance that out. And he's feeling a little bit squashed, so I might just do where I'm going to lengthen in the face there to kind of help push those details back a little bit more. It's good. To start giving that little shape. So I'm looking for those flows across that will come down here and then go across the bridge. It allows me. Let's play with this a little bit more. Let's kind of make them a little bit angry. But I want to kind of, again, play with these shapes that I'm seeing down into his face. Like everything's kind of pulling from here. Let's balance out the eyes more. Let's see. He's trying to go ahead and unicorn. Yeah, hopefully. No unicorns. I'll pull away from that here in a second. I think. Not that there's anything against unicorns, but I guess I'm not seeing that as direction. There are some, I mean, you can look online for some of the free scans. They're here and there. They've been kind enough to kind of share, but you know, sometimes they have deals with it, certain percentages off and stuff, and I would probably go ahead and grab a few of those just to help always study. I have a lot of, like, within the room, you can kind of see some of the different examples. I have some life masks of actors that sometimes I'll pull down and I'll take a look at to study the facial details. Of course, all my anatomy, freedom to teach stuff, or whatever, it just goes. It's kind of just like a nice way to kind of pull from it. This is just, like I said, the digital. I'm not saying you guys necessarily this is the way to go, but it's just for this example, I wanted to sit there and have try with this. His ears, I think, are a little bit too taxi driver, so I'm going to kind of pull this back in a little bit to the head, because I don't want to emphasize too much of the ears, and actually I might just use an inflate brush to thicken up those guys and kind of blend them in a little bit more. Let's see. Thank you very much, Briley. So let's see if we're just gonna keep playing with the shapes. Turn this down a little bit because there's too much on some of the flows. Like, take a look at once you have a line kind of going, just look at sometimes just not making kind of a straight, because the face is not straight. There's going to be actually like very flat surfaces here and there, so I might kind of bring out some of that detail on this, but I want to kind of have it kind of flow around the head, and here's like the shape of the ear. Might just be kind of good to take that down around and echo this shape that once we have going from the bridge of the cheeks and stuff. And then pull that up a little bit to give some, maybe some inflate to fatten up this side of the cheek a little bit too. And balance that. go back to detail a little bit eyes in this form. So let me go back up in a level. And a lot of times a lot of people ask me how I do a lot of the fat folds or whatever. It's pretty much just using like the dam standard, or maybe just kind of crease in those little sections, and then just use an inflate brush to kind of puff up those details that I want for the skin folds. That usually kind of balances over top of it and kind of makes it just really heavy, and you can control the weight of that just by using the move brush then to kind of push and pull and get it going towards the direction that you want it to go. So let's bring this head a little more. So as you can kind of see, I think I'm getting some pretty good details from that face. I haven't really touched the bottom of the mouth quite yet. I might start echoing some of the details that I have in here. So I'm bringing out the ridges of the eyebrows and some of the cheeks and making some interesting shapes in there. So I might kind of echo those details out. And I have a habit, guys, I swirl a lot, you know what I mean, just to create some of those weird folds. And then I use the Alt key to kind of push out the space to get those extra details. So, and then smooth. If it's not working, I just use the smooth brush to kind of take out some of those details from this. So, yeah, and actually, that's a good point. Having the skin detail already kind of in there, I mean, you could do, like, I can go down to noise and just add like a subsurface noise to kind of make it feel like the skin. But all those kind of things are already in there, and, you know, like I'm changing the eyebrow flow here, so I might reduce this and then use this furrow in the brow to kind of help some of my shapes kind of go. So again, I'm changing that whole structure of this face, but I'm using some of those details that I had going from the skin itself. So I might kind of use an inflate brush to kind of puffin up this thing, the pinch brush to bring those down a little bit. And then, of course, you can go down in a couple levels and just kind of slowly reduce some of those details without too much destruction to your upper level details. Kind of work on this shape. I think I need to kind of widen this brow out so I can echo this shape, or kind of flow with this shape on this side of the face. I'm going to kind of bring the eye, some of the details out a little bit more to kind of help. I think that can kind of work a little bit to his advantage. I think that's going pretty well. Some of the shapes here. So now, at this point in time, once I kind of get some of the details or the feel of the character, I think, if I'm liking it, then I'll step up a level, and then I'm going to just start detailing out a few forms to continue. Like, is this guy going to have veins or something? And kind of create some of the details into the face that kind of allows, you know, some of that human or more realistic forms to, you know, to be added to it. So, you know, like maybe his eyes kind of like splinter out in the crow's feet or whatever. It flows back into that little section. I'm going to define the bottom of the eye a little bit more, but I think I might kind of add like make like a little cavity for that eye socket to sit back into in that shape, to kind of start adding with this. Kind of define, see like a weird shape that I kind of like. That again, it's sort of, the eye has a lot of human element into it, but just adding a couple different changes to how the socket of the eye might meet with the corner of the bridge of the nose, or, you know, just adding this little flare down kind of helps add a little alien enough to him to change up his appearance. back a little bit. Again, brush is having trouble just skipping the stone crap that's happening to me. It's really making some issues for me. Drop this socket in a little bit more. I'm using an inflate brush to kind of puff up that little detail, and then I'm going to kind of, I'm using the move tools, guys, to kind of just pop out that eye socket. So I use the move tool a lot. Hey, what's up, Karen? Yeah, I don't need you, buddy. Yeah, there's too many good skilled artists in the world. There's always going to be somebody that you can learn from them. So don't just judge by the art. So, but of course, those guys that are badass, you always kind of want to learn from. So I've just been lucky enough to know a few of those guys. So now that I've got some of those forms kind of going, and I'm detailing out some of the eye, I'm going to kind of continue up that level because I want to finish. And again, this, from the scan, all this little rough detail, that was the scan of the eyelashes kind of coming down onto it wasn't clean. Now I could have cleaned that up, but you know, it's a happy little accident. And like, okay, that kind of helps me define that bottom section of the eye enough that it gives me some ideas. So don't just wipe away everything from the scan. I'm just going to rework it to a point that, you know, some of those things kind of come back and I'm like, oh, okay, that's a good direction to try. So I rely heavily on happy accidents to give me some of those forms. Just detail up some of this little section. Hey, Kyle, thank you very much. I appreciate being aboard. And then I'm going to define this nose bridge out a little bit more. Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate it. Set this back in here a little bit more. And then kind of maybe start playing with this loop on the eye to define. And then start playing with these shapes to kind of maybe bring your eye down. Because you want the eye to kind of move around your forms a lot. So if I see certain shapes that what I'm looking for usually is like if I have something going like the line is following my eye on the creature, that I might kind of say, where does that go if I'm looping around here? It's almost like a roller coaster. You guys kind of try to find the forms to kind of help lead the eye around, and then kind of pick up some stuff. So, hey Brave, I'm just working on the old Cintiq 21UX. You know, I have a fairly good rig. It's needing to be updated pretty soon. I just make sure I have enough. I have like 32 gigs of RAM, and just kind of push in some of the details I need to. Yeah, and actually I found I used to draw so heavy coming from Disney. I have a very heavy hand drawing the thin to thick that I was actually creating a bore line up in this little area for some reason, and I couldn't see. It started kind of fogging up, and then I realized they actually had like a little film over top of the monitor to kind of give like a little bit of texture to when you're drawing, to make it kind of feel like pen on paper kind of thing, or pencil on paper. And so when I peeled it away, then I went to straight glass, which is what they pretty much have now on the newer versions, and I was able to see again. So that was pretty nice little thing, because they were going to charge me $400 to ship it in and just tear it off themselves. So I was like, oh, that's a good thing to know. Let me go ahead and got some detail here, but I'm gonna smooth this out, add a little bit of a harsh, like maybe this is more of a bone plate that's kind of leading up just a little bit. So I'm going to smooth out some of the details, because this is where I want the eye to kind of maybe rest, because I have a lot of detail into this little section. So if I have it to separate the two forms from whatever details that I'm going to do, like let's say if I add, you know, more directional lines and stuff like that, leading your eye up to here, I want to balance not have too much detail all across that your eye just gets very confused and where to go. So at least I'm trying to do that. So let's go down. I got this leading from here. Let's see if I can actually add some more detail. Lines to the nose, kind of rough it up a little bit, and define, using the move tool to kind of define out this little area. And we're going to probably, let's just go ahead and just pop this out a little bit to give another bone shape kind of coming out of there to rest your eye down. And let's bring this down to separate the cleft of the lip here to read down. So I'm kind of just trying to find. So no, actually, Cameron, I started from a skein head because I wanted to kind of show, sort of like the traditional artist might start from a life mask of an actor, kind of build up the characters and stuff, and use that the shapes and stuff from the scan to help find some of the forms. So I'm using some of what I started from in this guy. Sorry, this one. And actually, I lost it. I took this head originally, I split it in half, and I created 2 different types of heads with it, and then I started continuing. I should have saved the back head. I could always probably pull up this form again. And then I've been slowly pulling some of the forms from that character to get some speed, but also to help people that are not as good as anatomy to kind of create without spending hours trying to start from a sphere, which I've usually done. Although a lot of times when I'm working in a game, if we have a library of characters, then a lot of times we can use those set libraries to speed us up, so it takes less time to turn around a character for a game asset. And it also keeps consistency to what you're doing for the game, which helps if you're working with different artists as well. So, okay, just adding up some of those details. This little section here, kind of, I think I might do another turn here just slightly, and lead some of the eye down from maybe echo another shape to this little thing right here, but then flow down. I'm going to bury this cavity behind the nose and swoop back out to bring it right back. So again, I'm trying to just find forms. He's looking a little bit straight. I'm going to probably just push this in and then sweep back up again. If you guys notice this little shape to this little shape, I'm going to try to play with that to kind of define it, and you will start to slowly notice these shapes kind of creep in. So I'm going to probably go from the side of face. I'm going to push this forward. So I'm just trying to look for something that can kind of keep playing with this face. And a lot of times, whatever I do on the face, on the front, a lot of times I'll kind of create some of that direction towards the back, because usually characters are 360 degrees and you get a chance to take a look at them. So if you have a character that is really interesting at the front, and then it goes kind of bowling into the back, I mean, that's okay if it's necessary, because most of the interest is on the front of the face anyway, but I'll try to at least take some of those folds or directional lines from the front. Too much football. See what I kind of get. So I think a little bit of ridge and detail around right here. So hopefully you guys can see on the buttons I'm kind of jumping around on. To actually see people went quiet, so hopefully I still have people. Push his ear back just a little bit more. I kind of probably do this from, maybe I push that in just a little bit. I'm going to bring up the outer back section of the ear so it kind of wraps in and around just a little bit. Bring this neck muscle out just a little bit more. And kind of dip down into the collarbone section here. I'll probably let's make it just a little bit longer. So let's define. I see this shape kind of happening here, kind of coming up, and then let's go back down again. So let's define the chin area here, and maybe I have a lot of these forms down, so I'm going to, again, if you look at some of the old masters like Rembrandt and stuff like that, a lot of times within what they have in their paintings, they'll actually have like maybe half an elbow out of the frame or whatever, because then that kind of, it's not too much out of the scene, but then it leads your eye back in by having that arm disconnected just a little bit to bring it in. So within, what I try to do in a lot of the creatures is like, if I have forms that are kind of leading down, I'm trying to look for something that actually will kind of lead your eye back in. Because I have a lot of folds and flow kind of coming downwards. So let's probably just try to take this little section here, because I got a lot of this sort of happening. I'm going to probably bring up some of the eye back and into the chin area and reverse this direction. So now I'm going to start kind of trying to, I don't know, just see if it works to bring your eye back up from this little section. So let me see. When you're going to start to make it in, so honestly, I have a tendency to do a lot of things symmetrical because I'm working in it. At the end of the character, I'll throw in another layer and I'll just sit there and do some asymmetry on it. There's a lot of artists that are kind of really good at doing asymmetry all the way through. I have a tendency that when I'm trying to create on the character, I'm just trying to look for forms and I'm not paying attention to the asymmetry. That is like an additive, like a nice little subtle touch on top. And sometimes you don't need to do too much to add. I mean, I could give them, turn off symmetry and add a pimple, and some people will say that's asymmetry, but no, I'll take a look to where if I have my forms going onto the furrow of the brow, I might take off the symmetry and then just do some asymmetrical detail work of the brow furrows more towards the right and across the form, and you can just easily just maybe pop the eye up or elongate it a little bit. But this is for speed. I mean, I'm just trying to create a new character, just playing around with shapes and see what I get. Look for that happy accident, and then just add those details later, or even rechange some of the surface skin detail here in a little bit. So, okay, so now that I got some of that kind of working a little bit, I need to define some of those turns. And if you notice, I'm just kind of swiping. I'm just kind of, I have my brush down and I'm not lighting up. I'm just adding skin detail and shapes as I go. Bring out this lip. Yeah, final touches, yes, sorry. Sometimes I'm long-winded, guys, I apologize. So, let's just kind of set this down. So the skin, I'm not going to do the inside of the mouth. I don't, if I was going to finish this character for a game asset, then I would give him a mouth bag and everything else to do this. But right now I'm just kind of playing with the shapes. Let's get some of these forms going back up. Thank you very much, Sculpting. I appreciate it. Appreciate you guys checking this out. So now that I have those going here, let me take a look at some of this detail. I'm going to define. Yeah, he does look like he's kind of enjoying the day. Let me make him a little bit more pompous and rude. So I'm going to take furrow the eyes and I'm going to puff these out to accentuate kind of like this disdain. He's an uppity rude alien kind of thing. You know, he kind of smells something that he doesn't like. I'm going to probably drop back in his less on a nose bridge. Let's kind of add like another swoop down. I think you smell something weakness. So I'm going to puff up this little section here. I'm using the inflict brush just to puff up some of the eye detail around. I'm going to push this back in, kind of widen that little section. Difference between a character artist and a character modeler. Same thing, it's just going to have different definition. You know, the title is the same thing, I suspect. So I'm going to go ahead and just define out some of these. And this definition right here, it's getting a little bit too close, so I'm going to kind of probably take this down a little bit further. The ear down. I'm going to kind of add some weight a little bit too, using the inflate brush to kind of lead up to the back of his head a little bit. Kind of connect it just a little. Same title, different definition. It's well, I mean, it's different. Sorry, guys. I usually don't talk while I'm sculpting, so it's kind of a challenge. You know, I mean, it's sort of like my and Max guys will have the same thing. They're talking about what there's different ways of saying them. So it's sort of, it's just the company itself that is just saying we want a character model or a character artist. So it's just their terminology that they're just using is just slightly different. Does that make sense? I call myself a character artist, but I model characters. So. Yes, I will be at the Industry Giants this year. I live in Texas, guys, and we usually don't get together with a lot of cool events, but I'm going to be part of Industry Giants. We'll be bringing different people from around the industries to help out our little local community kind of stuff, so I will be there this year. We're going to be doing portfolio reviews to give feedback to help out people as well. If anybody is watching from the area, it's going to be on September 22nd. And we should have our sign-up sheets for those, and bringing in some pretty cool people for sure if you want to check it out. Also, ZBrush Summit, I'm debating if I can make it this year, but I have my two friends that I was telling you about that work with Grimm, James Kane and Martin Verhoeven, are going to be competing. Cameron, who was just in here a little bit ago, he's going to be also competing in the ZBrush Sculpt-Off, which is a cool thing, very challenging for sure. So, pump this up. It's kind of like having a gun put to your head and say draw. And you got 3 hours. It's fun. Especially against the talent that they were bringing. But if you guys are in California area, you should definitely make it out to this summit. So it's an awesome thing. So, and actually, I don't know if you guys see, this is my logo. I actually created the shirt just so when I went to the summit I was able to hopefully have somebody recognize my logo or whatever, and because a lot of times it's difficult to, you chat with so many talented people, you know them by their artwork, but you don't know them by their name or their face sometimes. And I ran across a lot of cool people that I was like, man, I wish they had a t-shirt so I could actually know their artwork, and then, or just study up and start looking at everybody's face that you really respect. So, okay, So I'm just going to define this, the forms from these characters, the scan data, skin folds, and just kind of change some of that direction. Yeah, those of you guys that are not in the United States, then I'm sorry. So, but I know there's there's another cool event. Who I can't remember the name right offhand, but that pulls in a lot of awesome artists from Europe. So let's fatten up his neck a little bit. Okay. So I'm going to step back up and I'm going to define some of these forms. Got a little bit lost, so I'm just going to wipe out some of those areas and define them a little bit more. And if you guys have any questions, I'm sorry, I'm trying to look over at the screen to see what the chat is, but please just keep hitting me with questions, and I'll try to answer as best as possible, not confuse you guys as much. So now I'm just kind of going back and forth, swiping some of this detail. It's got kind of like this weird little section here, so I'm going to make this kind of like it's this weird Adam's apple, and I might... Let's just go ahead and play with some kind of, maybe some flesh folds that are kind of separating a little bit, and pick up some of the direction. Thank you very much, Varsity. I appreciate it. Yeah, and I will, with Grimm, we're going to be having a couple more prints available soon, so we'll be launching those. And of course, bringing back some of the stuff to Monster Cruiser again this year. So let's go ahead and define. Let's turn up. So I'm just kind of slowly raising the levels, guys, and just adding some of those details out that I had sort of sketched in, define. You know, maybe this, pop that back in a little bit, make it almost like a teardrop. And let's sweep this way. But then this is like bone, so I might give it some skin folds that it kind of hangs on and rests on or whatever underneath. Define the separation. So almost kind of like this bone plate is kind of sticking out through the flesh, not in a gross way necessarily, but just maybe just a weird growth, because again, we're making up the anatomy changes to this alien based on human anatomy. So we're just trying to add a little bit of variation. So there's that flesh. I'll use a flattened brush to kind of push back, define this bone shape just maybe a little bit more. Not too much. Maybe just need just up a little bit. So it's going pretty well. Playing with his change in his brow, kind of turn and help some of those folds around, using some of what I was getting from the scan data, but I'm going to change the direction just a little bit. And then come back in with the inflate brush and just kind of maybe pick up some changes to add some detail work to the next section. I'm going to, instead of dropping this eye back, I'm going to go ahead and wipe out this little area, and I'm going to connect, like maybe he's got the crow's feet that goes into the eye socket itself, or into the top of the eye, like a one big vein that starts pulling, and the vein is kind of maybe underneath this heavy flesh, kind of skips. So, like I said, a happy accident. I didn't mean to skip because ZBrush is kind of giving me some weird, and I'm going to fade out. So a little bit more. And let's go ahead and just break off the vein. Fade that out. So we're kind of leading the eye down to this section. I'm just going to kind of bring this out a little bit more too. Okay. I think that's working fairly well. Let's see. And it's a little bit wider. Save this real quick. Nice. And actually, I see a lot of you guys talking to each other in the forum, which is great. You guys, that's how you make a lot of connections and friends that way. So it's always kind of, you want to have friends that have like general interest. I've seen a couple of good friends of mine drop into the chat, which I appreciate. I've known through online for years. Okay, so let me take this turn right here. I've got this kind of going, and then I'm going to define this, because again, this is going to change his attitude, kind of, you know what I mean? Like it kind of adding a couple more furrows in the direction, however that's going to work, really makes his attitude go from friendly, smug, mean, all kind of stuff, just because that's where a lot of our emotions are expressed through. So, okay, I just stepped up another level. I'm getting kind of close to where I might define this a little bit longer, and then I might go to Polypaint here just to kind of push myself a little bit more in the color. I think I got some good ideas where I might want to take this guy, but we shall see. Okay, so I'm going to define the upper section of the eyelid just a little bit more. Define it's a little weird. Really, I just a little bit more to give some of this shape a little more definition. And let's define it. A lot of times I also use the damn standard brush with Alt to cut back out or add to the shape. As you can see right there, I have some of that skin detail that was originally on the skin that's just kind of helping me just give it a little bit of believability. Crisscross, blend down into that bone structure. But I mean, it's just look for the fun, guys. I mean, it's just taking this guy. You know, trying to make him a little bit, you know, from that scan data, I was able to borrow quite a bit of this, and still a lot of it's there, but I've changed it up enough that it takes him from, you know, real anatomy to alien anatomy. I think his nose is a little bit too long and bridge. I don't like the... I'm going to try to balance this out a little bit more. Kind of play with his lower lip. I'm taking a look at it, and it's like, I haven't been working in dynamic. I actually forgot to turn it on. You know, sometimes I get some weird things. But whatever you feel comfortable with is how you should work. Okay, so I have... define his chin up a little bit more. Oh yeah, I don't know if this is on Discord or not. So, let me go ahead and bring this in a little bit more. So when you're creating, just make sure to kind of turn around, just don't work on one side, take a look at it, you know, from all different sizes, sides, whatever, to try to give yourself different ideas, see what works, because if something is working on one side of the section of the face, then you know it's not in the front. Use that idea, what is working, to help you in the areas that is just not flowing as well. So I'm just going to do some cuts using the dam scanner to kind of bring down some of those details. Again, this is just skin detail. And we can use alphas here to kind of blend over top. A lot of times I sculpt in what details I want, and I actually, again, have the help of the scan data to give me some of that skin texture that I'm not really looking for. We're not really needing at the moment. So let's define. Oops. Bring out that bridge kind of like this. I'm going to use the pinch brush to kind of tighten this little section here. Remove tool. And I'm going to inflate, and flat, I guess I should say. Just a little bit more of that brow. Leading the eye up to the head. I don't know if you guys see it, I have like this little sectional line right there. I'm going to totally take that out because it's kind of cutting across. And I'm going to change that direction. I still have a little bit of the bump in there that I'm using, but nothing drastic. As it was, just so I can kind of have everything kind of start coming down, swoops into the line of the eye. Pick this back up to here. Again, roller coaster, so to speak. Okay. So now I'm going to the top of my layer, whatever, and I'm going to take a look. Actually, let's go down one before. I'm going to blur out a few things. Back up. Find any kind of clean up any area that we need to. This whole section. And then once you have this all kind of how you like it, then I would probably suggest kind of cleaning up, you know, do Dynamesh on it. No, make a clone of it, Dynamesh it, do a ZBrush, make it a little bit better for you to kind of, because right now I'm pushing and pulling, I'm getting some of the different, the polys are starting to stretch and it's starting to cause some weird artifacts that I don't want into my shape. That nice little happy accent, I'm going to kind of maybe pull this eye down a little bit more. swoop up. Okay, and then when I go into the higher level, I kind of, like I said, I was getting some interesting shapes, but I'm going to define the bottom of the eyelid just a little bit. Use that ink brush. So let's go ahead and just have that swoop going on. I might as well, you know. So again, I did this shape here. Maybe bring it up again here because I have it down here. And just see how that works. If it's not, then we can kind of, you know, you just go down a couple of layers and wipe it back out. Or if, you know, I want to try a few things on the direction and I like this face again, just make a duplicate of it. Okay, and it's just a snapshot in time to kind of like, you know, this is where I like, this is what I want to do. I mean, you can also save these out and you just go 01, 02, 03, and then just, I do the same, and I have a lot. But within your file, just go ahead and use snapshots of, you know, where you're happy with it, or you see something and you might want to try it out. You go. I mean, I have a few areas that I'm getting a little bit bubbly, so, but I might want to keep that. So I'm gonna try it out and just take that back just a little bit, maybe make this just a little bit fatter, and then already I'm starting to change that look. Or if I, you know, say, what does it look like if I really pump these out, you know, and if I like that or not. Or I want to set the eyeballs back in, or hell, even go, what does it look like if it goes out? That changes that character just by just doing one little push and pull. So it's pretty drastic how you're working and you're creating. So, but try it. You know, you never know what you get until you try. So don't be afraid to experiment. And this is one way to kind of like stop and say, okay, I like this direction I'm going, but just in case I want to try something else. Because you can always sweep back in, you know, up and down the layers, but that gets kind of confusing and wrong. So okay, I'm getting close to try some Polypaint on it. Let me see, what time is it? Okay, we've already done an hour, so an hour sculpt isn't too bad. Okay, just a little bit longer. Right now I'm not changing. I'm on subdivision level 5. With Polypaint, I am gonna kick up one more side effects, just to sit there and give myself a little bit extra detail for the Polypaint to sing through. But I'm just going to just do some general, not bringing in any images really. I'm just going to kind of just sculpt in some of the Polypaint color and try out some different stuff in the areas that, to see how it kind of looks. So, okay, let's define out the, let's give them some little interesting lip details. Kind of define, more of a separation of the fat of the lip with where it needs kind of like more of the rougher section of, you know, the upper lip. So again, I'm just swooping with my brush. I'm not doing anything fancy. I'm just kind of trying to find those forms. And I'm going to make this a little bit fat by using inflat. Same thing on the back here, I might kind of fatten up his nose, or depends on his bridge. It's kind of might be a little bit too thick, so I'm gonna bring those back so I can then pinch more on that section to help, you know, maybe have some interesting shape kind of go down there. So have this going. I'm going to kind of turn, just kind of the gravity of that face has really just been kind of wanting to pull down, so I'm just going to let it from the skin. Okay, so I think that's pretty good. Not too bad, not too good. It's kind of, you know, again, I would say, guys, just toss out tons of these things. These are just ideas. These are, you know, do 50 of them. You know what I mean? You might kind of come up with something you like. You know, that's how a lot of the guys that you respect or you pay attention to do. I mean, it's just, it doesn't come easy for anyone really. It's just a lot of time and effort, to be quite honest. So, oh yes, thank you. I forgot to put down my ArtStation. artstation.com/spark. Thank you very much for that, Evil Empire. I appreciate that. I'm kind of bad at promoting myself. I need to get better. So and I'm kind of, you know, I've been following the live for quite a bit, but I'm kind of, they were kind enough to let me come in here and push myself and to kind of try this out. So I'm just hoping that I don't have any big blow-ups, and it kind of seems to work. I get something out of it for myself as well. Okay, so I have this guy. I'm not really liking the gel that I was having here, so I'm gonna go back because I want to kind of push this in and maybe bring this up a little bit, just to kind of flow. Maybe not necessarily that section, but maybe just this section underneath here, just separating a little bit. Professionally, I mean, honestly, it's like I've studied traditional art for, I've been drawn since I was 4. You know, went to Ringley School of Art and Design, went through illustration, then got into Disney, and then I jumped, then I went to an E3 to, because I was like, hey, I like video games, and, you know, then I got lucky enough to get into the game industry from that. When I got into the industry, I mean, because I'm turning 48 in a week, so I'm kind of an old dog, but it wasn't until, I think I listed on the ZBrush channel, I met Paul Gabery back in like 2004 or 5 or whatever, when he came to our local college and did a little demo on ZBrush. And then that's where I kind of, I was like, oh, you know, that's amazing. And then I was able to bring back all that traditional ability, studying, you know, cadavers and all kind of stuff, all my anatomy, and just came alive. Because before it was like you were just pushing XYZ verts. It was painful as hell. And then just slowly, even though at that point in time it was a little bit more like a 2.5, it was more for painting, we kind of noticed. I was also in the Mudbox beta during that time too, kind of trying to come along, but ZBrush is like the most powerful program I've ever used, to be quite honest. So, thank you, man, I appreciate it, Bree. And I was chubby, that's why when I lost my weight, I think it kind of helped me not drying out like a raisin. But it's you know, thankfully this program, you know, really kind of helped bring back a lot of that knowledge and stuff, and you know, I love it because of that. So, and everybody at Pixelogic's phenomenal, so great group of guys, which is always kind of nice when you got a program, because I can't say that about so many other programs. The community is very important. So, okay, I think I am ready to kind of test out a little bit of different skin detail. I mean, because I could keep tweaking, finding the stuff, and even though I'm going to be polypainting here and some of that, I still can come back in and push some of these things that might not be kind of working. You know, never just expect it to be done. Keep going until you kind of are happy with it. But just because you're done sculpting, you go to polypaint, and it doesn't mean you can come back and go to your sculpt again if you're not seeing something that works for you. This is back. Okay, so in case anyone is wondering, the sculpt material I use is Z98. I believe, guys, very strongly the fact that your material really helps you see the forms. So if I'm working with certain things that are kind of like, which I've seen some people sculpt with, you know, something as drastic as this kind of stuff, there's no way in hell you can see what you're doing and what you're working on. So you as an artist need to kind of find something that is kind of easy on the eyes. You can actually see the foreground, middle ground, background details very easily to kind of pull those forms. Because if you can't see what you're looking at, there's no way you could find what you were looking at. So just be aware. So this is what I tend to like, because it's a little bit more towards the green clay. You know, Mudbox or the brown clays, or you know, a whole bunch of different stuff is really, you know, awesome to use too. So just try to find something that's not so drastic, because I'm not looking to present. Even though I'm doing a demo, I'm not looking to present this guy. I'm just looking to create this guy. So I don't need to kind of switch over to something that looks all, you know, fancy or whatever. To kind of get those drastic, you know, looks of the material. Now it's cool, you know. It's like, oh, that's pretty neat, but again, I can't do anything with it. Now the same thing with this material. Let me go ahead and save this real quick. When I go to Polypaint, that's the same thing. I need to kind of find a material that is going to help me see the textures that I'm dealing with. So if I'm polypainting on this guy, it's going to change. It's going to be kind of dark and not really giving me anything that I can really help see the form. So I'm going to switch over to something. I kind of really like the ZBrush Illustrate paint. It's got a little bit of blue to it, especially now that I'm kind of doing the aliens. It's pretty blast right now, but again, I can't use this to sculpt on, but this is what I'm going to switch over to paint on. So how I usually go about polypainting is I just go over to my standard RGB. Again, this is very important to just like you're going up and down levels, guys, to create your forms and your sculpts. You want to sit there and make sure that your RGB intensity is not 100%. You never want to paint with something 100% because you need to have the blend details between the colors and stuff. So now if you say I want to kind of start with a specific color, and I'm going to kind of probably go down to a little bit of brown-ish, and you say I want to just start from a certain color across the whole thing to make sure it's unified, that's great, that's fine. Then you can just go to color and just fill that object up to you have 100%, you know, or you just can click until you got it. So then I will go to just the drag select. I'll pick an alpha. I usually could use, you know, alpha 20, alpha 31. It's a little bit of variation. You can do it to where you set up with like your color spray and whatever. I just have a tendency, I'm going to kind of pick and pull. I'm starting from this range, but I think I want to separate this guy kind of like in the half of the head. I want to kind of define maybe more of this region up here with a specific color, and that's where my interest is going to be. But for the lower level, I'm just going to kind of start painting. Oh, so I actually changed the colors. I was like, what's going on? And I'm going to kind of just start kind of figuring out, like, well, I want the interest towards the front of the face. So I'm just pushing and pulling the Polypaint. I'm not getting really detailed quite yet. I'm just kind of finding the colors. And I'm letting some of it pick up. So I probably want his this section of the face to kind of pick out. So probably at this point, you know, have some blending, but I'm probably going to define some of the ear and some of the flesh in the front. And it's almost let's go a little darker down here as we go into the bottom half of the body. I mean, I don't know if you guys can see, I have some library books back there. I pull out every once in a while. I mean, I'm all over the place. I look at pretty much anything and everything. Pinterest, ArtStation, and just kind of take a look. I have a lot of people that I respect, and I see what they're doing. I'm like, oh damn, I gotta step up the game, or be inspired a lot of times from what they're doing. I have a lot of life drawing books. Honestly, it's like I haven't really pulled up a book in a while. I'll get some of those books, you know, from a movie or whatever, some of the concepts, see where they're going from, and I'll take a look at it. But I've been more towards just like I'll gather everything, a library source online, and just put it into my folders, and just kind of, you know, I have an artist folder, and I have all the artists that inspire me and what they do, and I try to keep up on it to see what their thoughts are and their thinking, and so on. So it's always great to be inspired, not, you know, not emulate exactly, be inspired from an artist, and try not to, you know, pull too much. It's hard. I've done it myself. You're kind of like, oh, I pulled too much from that, you know, because you respect and you like their forms, and you're having trouble and you're blocking, and sometimes when you work on a game, you have to emulate each other, kind of, and it's kind of hard to get out of, like if you're like, like I can imagine the guys that work on Star Wars, you know what I mean, their style becomes what you would consider Star Wars. It's hard to kind of pull out from that after a while. So I've been trying more to like think of different ways, basic shapes, geometric shapes, that kind of stuff, to just get the forms and see what you can come from this one. So now that I kind of have some of this, I might kind of go down a little bit on my color to bring back, or hell, I might even kind of use that to kind of, I'm going to kind of pitch this up a little bit. But right now I just got two forms of colors. I'm going to kind of like, well, he's alien. Do I want to go the typical blue, gray, alien kind of stuff? Green, you know? I mean, I just let's put. I'm not a big fan of red, so this is probably where I should just go. You know, I'm just going to go to a red. Let's find like a bold red to follow. I'm just going to start. Just say maybe this top of the section where it kind of bleeds through, and we're just going to echo. Some of the, right, he's kind of like a caterpillar kind of tinge to where we see some of that just kind of to the back. You know, if you take a look at a lot of insects and everything else, the males usually have the bold colors to impress the females, all that kind of stuff. So let's just say that he's wanting to impress. He's tries to impress. So we've just got the strong red. Let me go ahead and maybe bleed out some of the color a little bit. Get some of the darker. Should have actually probably done a little bit darker and then brought up some of that red later. You know, it's kind of. Thank you. I appreciate the side effects. Kind of like this little section now. Usually in the face you'll have warms and cools and everything like that, so you want to find certain sections of the face, just even though this guy is not a human, he's kind of pushed far from it, you can actually bring in some of the effects of, well, just because he isn't straight up human, he still will have some aspects of where his blood might pool into the face a little bit more. Actually, it's going to treat like this, there's a separation, not to get too phallic, but find some of these forms a little more. Yeah, imitation is the serious form of flattery, but the thing is, if you're defining yourself, you want to, as an artist, you want to kind of be aware and be inspired, but not take somebody else's style and artwork to the fact that you can't be told the difference between it. You could do fan art, but make sure if you do fan art, just try to call out, you know, make sure you say, this is a fan art of, and list that person. They appreciate it, you know what I mean, and because, you know, our other artists like to be, you know, appreciated and have other artists be inspired by, but just don't. You know, because I've had a lot of students that will show and they just think this because, you know, there's an artist named Terada in Japan, whatever, that nobody in America knows who that is. Well, that's BS. So, I just sort of try to do your own style, but just, you know, I mean, to me, honestly, just nature has a lot of weird, sick crap. Just try to take a look at that for a while and Like with that one piece, the Girl Arachnid, I was taking a look at Silverbacks because I had just been to the zoo, and then I remember being, you know, grilling, and there was a black widow that I was aware of. So I was like, gorilla, spider, Girl Arachnid, you know, it's the two things together, merged together. And then I just started playing with the forms, and then, you know, the gorilla was growling, and then I pushed it towards, you know, I had influences by Predator, you know, like Steve Wang and everything, like pushing that form of the mouth, whatever, just to show a lot of the teeth, and, you know, to kind of almost echo the shapes of the spider's legs going, and that's where it kind of came, and that's just how it kind of grew, you know what I mean? I was inspired by something, but I didn't take it exactly to the fact that this is the Predator. But I had those things in mind when I was jumping around, and sometimes when I create, guys, I'll have some things that inspire me, and I'll start sculpting certain forms or shapes that I like from it, and then put it away to kind of, you know, get started with some ideas, and then I'll just take a look at it. This right here, like I said, I've been kind of, I'm pulling from a scan. You know, I'm starting from a scan, but I'm treating it like I would if I was working clay on top of a life mask. You know, I just used it as a base to pull from, and then just get my ideas and getting some of the shapes that I'm liking from it. So, so just try to work a little bit different, or think a little bit differently on how you might approach something. Always be open to a different approach, different styles, of course, and people, you go from there. And again, anything I say, guys, you can, you know, take for a grain of salt that it is. It's just one person's opinion. I teach a lot, and I try to help out a lot of the students and younger people coming into the industry. And I'm just telling you, our industry is very small. So I'm going to darken this down again. I'm just playing. All I'm doing is just with one alpha, and I'm just kind of goofing around, trying to build up some of the shapes. Thank you very much, Paul. I appreciate it. Just kind of looking for the finding things. Now, this is pretty abrupt. Now, I might actually kind of say, you know what, maybe I take an alpha and I go, you know, let's bring in some kind of shapes, like, you know, like that. It's kind of, it's leading your eye around from here, and this is maybe not necessarily a clown kind of stuff, but that's his design. That's the something that kind of lead your eye down across that bridge. So you just gotta, you know, you can just kind of play with that for right now. It can have a tendency, and then go back to a different alpha, and then kind of blend that down in over top of the bridge. So this will kind of lead the color along with the forms are leading your eye from this. Now, I'm going to bring in a little bit more blue just to kind of start getting in some of that variation of color. Not too much, because I kind of want to keep the look going of just like these stark contrasts of color and stuff. But I mean, it's like mixing this in gives that a little bit of the, you know, because I'm blending in the RGB down at a lower level, I'm blending the colors. So of course red and blue make purple, so I'm getting some of that variation of effects. And of course the color wheel, guys, take a look at it. You have color theory, you know, it's just like, you know, yellow, purple, all that kind of stuff. They really push against each other. Now the complementary color to red is green, but that's, I don't want to go to the extreme. I don't have to be a color wheel. I don't have to go off of color theory all the time, but be aware of the reasons to bring it in when you're creating your forms and stuff. So I'm going to probably bring down a little bit of blue into these little crevices to kind of help. Just a little bit. Okay. And let's go back to get some of this weight to pull this out. And of course I'm hitting C to kind of pull in. Once I get certain colors, and I don't know if you saw during the summit, I actually had like a section of colors that I wanted to pull from to kind of keep me in this range. And so I actually, in my background, I just had the section so I could just quickly grab that color and kind of play off of it. But once I have some of this color kind of going, I'm just going to again grab the green with a C or whatever, and then I'm just going to go up. I'm just going to kind of, with this value, I'm going to start playing and bringing out some of those higher pitches. So maybe I want to go more towards a white to kind of define out some of this tonal similarities, like, you know, maybe that's bring that up, so let's bring more of a pink into it. So we're almost kind of building in the highlights and the lights and darks with the color in the bridge. And I might kind of say, you know, let's pick up the vein. Now that's too heavy, so we got to drop down, like so, to bring up some of those ridges to actually define it. Now that if that is too heavy, I could just hold down Shift and I can wipe it away. The problem with Shift, a lot of times it's set up to the RGB and the Z edition, so when I go to hold down Shift, I'm just going to turn off the Z edition because I don't want to wipe out what I'm doing to my sculpt. I actually want to just sit there and just blend, hold down the Shift to blend out some of that color, okay, without reducing my details. So make sure you're just not wiping out the details you have. And then that way I can kind of go back in and paint out some of these little refining forms. And then I might kind of take this and I'm going to probably pitch up even higher to a lighter color so I can actually define some of those areas that I want. And again, I could use alphas, but I'm kind of just picking out the highlights that I wanted to really emphasize. And if I need to step up, let's go a little bit stronger so we can see them, so we're not swiping too much. But like, you know, let's say if I want to really define the difference between this section right here, we've got some of the highlights on the nose, and again, using that smoothing section, I can kind of reduce down those areas. So I'm kind of splitting up that form of my, I'm emphasizing certain areas of the details I have in my sculpt and bring them to life into here. So like, let's say I want to define this nose bridge just a little bit more, you know, by popping this high color. By having that separate, I have that dark color, and I'm kind of, even though I didn't in the sculpt separate it and give it depth, I'm doing that in the color in the form. So, let's just kind of define a little section in the mouth. Just sweeping. I'm not being precise. I'm kind of allowing the brush and some, like I said, the happy accidents to happen. I can go in and define those later if I want, or I can wipe them away if I need to. So, you know, I'm kind of following some of, I'm just sketching along. I want to bring this up on the pitch of the nose, I mean on the side of the face here, and bring some of that detail, that highlight into here. You know, again, I'm kind of creating, based on that sculpt, I'm kind of creating some of that color and defining that a little bit more. So let's define this little section here on the bridge. And again, I have that going, and I can sweep this out and like kind of blend that out till it kind of fades, but I can even go back, and I'm going to just kind of like keep putting some of the blending details and alpha brushes and stuff. And let's go ahead and maybe not so much. Let's just define some of the ear. And certain folds that we're just painting in. And when we go over top with a different color, we can just really blend that out and put them together and make them work. Or if I want to do certain spots. Now I could always just go back to this and kind of pick. And the reason I'm keeping guys pretty much just to this little section here is because I want you guys to be able to, you know, you don't have to, you can get alphas and you can do a bunch of different stuff, but, you know, I want to just show you guys can just do the basic stuff that ZBrush gave you and still create something from it. So you as the artist need to sit there and just kind of find different ways of utilizing it. So Like by doing this, the different alphas and how it spreads, then I'm making like spotty skin and making it kind of like how he might be kind of old, like especially if I do brown spots on him, you know what I mean? He's kind of a little bit older. Or if I just want to sit there and go here a little bit darker and just blend in that, so it's going to start getting noise. Now you're actually going to start seeing that little variation into that kind of just starts to make them, you know, a little more alien-esque. Alright, just kind of keep refining. And I'm keeping with that alpha just to, you know, kind of just keep showing the plane and also see what I get from it. So let's go ahead and make his neck like a little bit more spotty, and so there's like two different sections almost a little bit, because we kind of had this little, let's switch back. Let's darken this down just a little bit. And just blending in a little bit. And that skin is separating just from each other, so there's almost like a different layer. Although that separation there doesn't necessarily have to keep, so I have the ability to kind of play the forms. Now I'm bringing in that different alpha to kind of give a little bit of variance to that texture. Same here. So I'll jump through the different textures. That here is starting to get kind of, it's a little lost. And, now I'm going back to just I'm going to my move brush just to kind of play with that here. Just a little bit. Back into my painting. Is there any kind of questions you guys have, or are you still kind of with me? Let's make some of this red. Now, I'm still at the level that I started with just from whatever the skein was, but I'm going to drop off one more level. So I'm taking it from the 2 mil range to the 10 mil. That's just going to help my polypaint a little bit more in my definition, so we can start seeing the subtleties from whatever I do. So I'm going to define this bridge just a little bit more. So that's the bone from it. Go ahead and kill alpha. Go back to defining out those shapes. Now, you could also, you know, this is great too if you want to kind of just, if I'm doing one line at a time, it can take a little bit, or you could just go ahead and use alpha to give yourself some, I'll go drastic so you guys can see it. So it's like, you can see some of the line happen into the skin. So it kind of gives you just a little bit of interesting skin variation. Kind of to play with the line work that I was kind of doing before. And just try to continue. Yeah, I'm working on the Cintiq. Honestly, it's like, and I'm using, I mean, honestly guys, I model, sculpt, paint, do everything with my Wacom. The only thing I use with my mouse is for email. Because honestly, it's sort of like painting with a brick. Yeah. No references. I was just sculpting off of the scan head. Basically, just trying to find the forms and using that. Dark cookies to kind of like make something from the shapes that I saw from the scan head. Playing around with different forms and stuff in the flow to actually see what what I could get. It's challenging. It's a little more challenging. There's going to be some that's just not good at all. I mean, I don't know if I'll keep this guy, but it's sort of just to push myself to kind of get a little bit more, to try and, sorry. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's just like a hard surface it's a different genre, but I mean, it's very hard to be good at both kind of stuff. Organics just flows a little bit better for me, to be quite honest. It's just, I have a lot more fun with it, but it's always nice to kind of have, I mean, you're going for characters, you're going to do hard surface, there's no way around it. And I think for one character, from Rage, I had like 42 little items that went onto the back of the guy. His name was Stu, and he was kind of like a walking shop. And, I mean, hell, I even had Teddy Bear and, you know, my license plate. And it was just, I was running out of ideas of what to put into the character. So, this character for movies is sort of like, this is a conceptual stage. So I would submit this to the client, and kind of like say, hey, here's some different ideas. I'd probably give them a sheet of a whole bunch of variants, and you know, just like, hey, different shots, different push and pulls, trying to get the character. If I was going to say, okay, I'm doing aliens, so I give them a whole bunch of different aliens to actually see what they might kind of want, and then they kind of might, you know, lean more towards one or the other, and then just kind of go from there. So, and then I would get that back, and then I would just kind of take this, and I would just clean up the forms, do some extra detail work on it, and clean it all up and get it ready with the proper loops and everything for animation, and submit. So, go back to this. It darkens down just a little bit more so I can pull out some of those highlights from the reds here in a second. Items or characters that to start sculpting from, I would probably just say, just like I would from anything, drawing from real life. You know, you know, just to start learning anatomy, start learning from, you know, how to create things naturally. When I teach classes, I usually have them work on realistic object props and stuff like that, because if you can do a realistic prop, you can pretty much do anything. Style, I mean, there's a lot of artists that you kind of like, you see, oh, they have an awesome style, but they can do realism phenomenally. You know, so it's like Picasso at the age of 13 can draw realism like unbelievable. It's amazing to look at his stuff, but a lot of people just know him from his abstract work. But it's like he, you know, when he decided after he did that, he kind of was like, I'm just going to be able to do, I want to do my own thing, and he went from there. So, so I would probably suggest doing something easy. Don't start sculpting like a tank. You know what I mean? Sculpt something really small, something you can get in and out on something pretty quickly. And because when I usually teach, I have the class. They only have 1 week to create a high poly, and then another week to create the low poly unwrapping and texture in-game assets. So it's sort of, you know, it goes fast, and actually in the game industry, it's a lot faster. You know what I mean? You got sometimes days to work on something that you need to get ready for the game to turn in. So you're trying to just develop your eye. I would say more first in the beginning, guys. Develop your eye, and then your speed. Get past that technology barrier first to where you're comfortable. You know, you think about it, and then you just kind of, you know, go from there. So I'm highlighting just a little bit of this detail on the front of the head. And maybe just bring back some of the warmth from the darkness here. And I'm going to kind of probably blend into these two. And what's that? Watch more, do less. Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, you just have to do rinse and repeat. Honestly, you know, I tell a lot of the students, it's not going to be pretty. Your first things, I mean, if you looked at some of the initial stuff that I did, it was not very pretty. It took a lot of years, a lot of time that over and over again working and stuff to get to somewhere that wasn't too bad. So guys, you guys got to remember, it takes 21 years to go from the breast to a beard. Okay, it takes time. So art is a slow process that is not going to happen overnight. And the guys that you were inspiring to just didn't start yesterday. So you have to realize that it's going to take you a long time, a lot of effort, and a lot of hours, to be quite honest. And just keep at it. Don't give up. So, and remember, there's always somebody better than you, but hopefully there's always somebody worse. And as long as you keep striving, you'll be better than yourself the day before. So look at it that way. Well, I mean, this is we're working digitally, right? So, I mean, I say just concentrate on ZBrush. Utilize that. They've done a great job of adding a lot of this stuff to make your life easier. And you could pretty much use everything you need to in ZBrush. Now, there might be certain programs that you kind of, jump into to learn. I mean, honestly, for my job, I jump into quite a few different programs, but primarily I'm in ZBrush. So I would say get that underneath your belt, learn from it, and go from there. Okay. So again, I'm picking out color, darker red. And just because I've got this down does not mean I'm going to not come back over top of it. I'm just trying to bring out some of those highlights, or some of those things that are in the head that I was kind of bringing into shape. And this eyelid, I need to define it a little bit more, so I'm going to go to a dark. I'm not going to go to a pitch black, but I'm going to kind of bring in some color into it, and I'm going to start bringing it. Now, I could use the mask to grab all my cavity and just kind of give a certain darkness, and I could do that. Sometimes I've had problems where it kind of crashes on me, and I'm kind of nervous when I'm doing a demonstration to kind of do that all the time. But I'm just kind of showing you and looking. By doing it this way, I'm choosing the forms that I want to bring out. I'm looking and saying, yeah, I want to sit there and have the color come out from here and go here, and so on. So, and if it doesn't work, just undo it. So, yeah, I mean, the hours comes practice, with comes knowledge, which hopefully gives you something that's better. So but it was funny, like when I went to the summit kind of stuff, and I was in those competitions, I got a chance to meet a lot of the guys, and it was funny because everybody had like a different way to process that, because we're all different. We're all kind of we look at things differently, and we kind of come about from two different sides of the street sometimes. So and when you do that, things are flipped. On different sides of the street. One house is on the right, where that's on the left of the other person. So we're always kind of looking at things differently, and always be open to that, to see what you can, if your speed can increase, or hopefully I help somebody out, with by showing some of this process, and hopefully somebody finds this useful. That's why I was kind of trying to think of a different way of approaching something that I haven't done. But I know that I actually found a use for it, so that's, I'm happy with that as well. So, okay. So let's define this out a little bit more. I'm going to color this up just a little bit. Take that color and we can go over I'm blending in some of that. This is just a simple brush. I've just been
I haven't done anything really fancy, guys, because I wanted to sit there and show you just, you know, sometimes just having the basic stuff you can create from it. Because I'm trying to make it very simple for you guys just to create. Look for the forms and create. Silhouette is key. Don't overthink it, you know. Don't work hard, you know, think smart kind of thing. So just having general basic shapes and forms and stuff, that'll make it easier for you. Hopefully that's, you know, it helps you guys out. So I'm going to kind of maybe define some of this. Okay. Pull in. Substance painting is great as well. I mean, to me, this is just, I'm in a lot more control. I'm defining where I want things. Where in substance, a lot of times you're working on your normals, your occlusion, your cavities, and you get some really great things that happen. You know what I mean? That's a big help to kind of help you with, you know, finding those areas or playing off of them. You know, it's like having a different artist kind of, you know, give feedback or, you know, to what you're doing. Honestly, it's like I paint in substance, but I'm still getting used to it because to me it felt very much, for organics, it was just a little bit harder for me to get to point A to B. You know, for hard surface, it did a lot of cool things really quickly for it, but they've added a lot of stuff, and it makes it a lot easier for you to get where you want to go. This is, you know, I'm just having fun, to be quite honest. I'm not, I mean, I could bring in some textures, I'm bringing in alphas and stuff, but it's like, it's not major drastic stuff that is going to change. Like in substance, if I click a button, I can really, you know, or I can put on a smart mask and I can get a lot of stuff really quickly. So this is where I'm just painting with alphas, trying to, you know, that's long. Okay, so I have that highlight on this going pretty well. I don't know if I want to change some of that color. I like the red, but it's a little bit too... splotchy. Let's go for a little smoother transition. So even though I have this new red coming in, it's still keeping a lot of those details on. Because my RGB is not too drastic, I'm keeping the things I have, and I'm almost kind of changing that tone of that red, which I'm liking a little bit better. Let's start putting that back here. And thank you for the compliment of the Grim stuff. Yeah, it seems like you can get more of the paint. Yeah, the painterly. I mean, it's almost like I'm painting with an airbrush, guys, and so that's pretty much what this is being treated like. And I'm just doing subtleties, like by picking up specific things in areas that I want, and then it just takes a little bit. If you see right there that color, now I'm blending these two colors. I'm now making this, excuse me, a little bit more towards the browns, and because it's just the red, but because of the RGB intensity that I'm using, it's just kind of changing. It's taking the color underneath and giving me a kind of a little bit more towards that sienna brown that I kind of dig. So it's almost like he's got a little bit of dirt. And what I'll probably do is take this character and after I'm done with this little section, demo or whatever, and I'll probably take it a little bit further, kind of play with it and see what I can kind of get. as an example. So I'm going to define his lips a little bit because I've got some of the detail kind of happening up in here. Kind of red in his eye, and a little section a little bit, because that's going to pop out his color. A little bit more. I don't really have a lot of the red here, but I'm going to kind of bring that down here. Thank you very much, Mark. I appreciate it. So I'm going to turn this back off. I'm going to knock down my intensity a little bit, and I'm just going to go to a lighter level. I'm going to kind of bring out some of the lip separation that I had in my sculpt. Thank you. I appreciate it, Lamentus. I'm actually going to be probably bringing the Hell Priest to market here pretty soon. I'm trying to get it produced. So I should have it ready by next Monster Palooza. And I usually been doing the kits like about 9 inches, but I'm probably going to make that one a little bit larger because he's very vertically high. So it's kind of a challenge. So if he sits up against the other 9-inch kits, which is the other ones, he feels really small. And, now usually, guys, I've been keeping this just on one material. I'm not playing with any kind of material variations on this, but let's say if I want to make this a little bit wetter, I can go to a different material to bring that out. So where like the lip kind of goes a little bit. Actually, so let's say if I want to make this lip a little bit more wet, so to speak. Let's drop some highlight across it. I'm doing like a fake appearance of it. And then I could probably just go to my MRGB, and I'm going to change this one up to, let's say, a really wet looking one, and then I could just pick a color and just slowly paint over the material along with RGB if I wanted to wetten certain areas subtly. So it's pretty low, and then kick back out into my texture. So then I just sort of have that kind of put into it. I usually don't do this because it's like I like to keep everything kind of, you know, like right now that's kind of, you know, that might have been too wet, so I got to go back into my, well, I'm still in MRGB, so I might kind of, as you see, take that back a little bit. Okay. Let's just get back into the RGB mode, because there's like that little pixely kind of like little section that I can probably fake out some darkness to it. I mean, you could do that, but again, it's sort of like that harsh thing. So what I might need to do is just paint like a highlight on. Try to hide that if I want them to be super wet. But if I don't, you know, just go to material. Just go to a flat color. As you can see right there, that's what I've been working with. Just do color and just fill that object till I get rid of any kind of material hit. Bring that back out. You know, I've had people ask me that before. How do you get rid of that? So, okay, that went down kind of low. So I'm going to darken. Feeling like I was in paint for a second. Where are we at? We're pretty much at 2 hours. So probably I'm getting kind of, I think I'm pretty good. We're at least somewhat happy with it. Is there any kind of questions? Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for, Noble, thanks for letting me sculpt for you guys. Hey Cameron, no, this was just a no custom material. I just used I'm just painting off the ZBrush Illustrate paint, and I'm just doing the Polypaint over top of it. So let's see. No masking, ZBrush, no masking, just painting straight, and I'm controlling where I want to have the peaks and valleys and stuff like that. So I've just been finding certain areas that I want to define, and just picking a color and just painting out those little sections, and then blending a little bit here and there to be in kind of control of where I want your eye to go. So like if I want spots there, or I wanted to find some of like this little sculpt that I was picking up, or down here, even though this is pretty harsh from that, I can easily go back and blend out just a little bit, pick it back up again, blend, and then define by picking another, just using the C button to kind of grab the color. This study, this was all done in ZBrush. I've been in ZBrush from the start, so starting from a scan and just kind of playing with shapes and stuff until I kind of created something that I liked. I mean, horror movies, I mean, with CG, the mixture, I like the fact that both worlds are kind of brought into it now. And it's not just traditional, it's not digital, it's kind of like a mixture of both depending on what it kind of needs. So, and honestly, ZBrush is, I mean, it used to be, honestly, game guys never talked to film guys, and never talked to the traditional sculpting guys. It was just a very separated field. You had some of the big hitters like, Rick Baker and others kind of jump into ZBrush early on. That kind of helped bring the worlds together, and the better the ZBrush was able to sit there and, we used it into our day-to-day work. It brought a lot of the, film guys, and then started noticing game guys and vice versa and everything else, and it really bonded just the fact that it's like artists are just artists, and we just have different things that we use to bring our creations to life. So, and I like the fact that a lot of the horror movies are, it's not, because it's funny, guys. It's like, used to be when I was in getting like low poly kind of stuff. They said, we're moving towards the high poly. Low poly is never going to be utilized again. It's dying. Well, then mobile games came in, and then VR and everything, and guess what? It's not. It's been adapted, and a lot of the guys that are really good at the low poly stuff, you can tell, because that skill kind of comes back in, quite a bit. So, okay, so I'm just going to I'm going to probably grab something kind of funky. Now, I could probably use that alpha for that little section, but it kind of giving me too much. So, let me bring in, try this. And again, if you hold down Alt, it's going to give you black, but let me try to do that. I'm going to kind of use this to break up some of, not necessarily use it as veins, but use it as just a breakup of some of the skin. That's probably a little too much. That corner here, and then maybe just on the underneath to kind of give some visual interest. And then I'm going to pick up a color and kind of blend out some, or even jump into it a little bit different to help. Thank you, Martins. I appreciate it. No, I haven't painted into the crevice except for what I've done. So if I see a section that I want to darken, I would just kind of paint in to knock back some of those details, and then grab a color and then bring out some of the highlights, the areas I want. So, like this nose bridge right here, if I want to define that just a little bit more to kind of help my nose section here kind of separate, and I can just easily, take out that alpha and reduce it a little bit. So I can define these things. I just might kind of go in. What I was saying before was I'm in control of do I want to really emphasize that little structure? Because I mean, again, the cavity is going to just grab everything from the sculpt, and you know, you can get some great details and stuff from it. But if I just want to sit there and accentuate certain areas, leave other areas out, I can do that myself by just swiping and giving myself some detail work, picking back up a color I might like, and then just blending it out. You know, I'm going to kind of use that. So I think he's pretty much done. I mean, I can continue or just answer any kind of questions. So let me double check the. And sorry guys, I'm getting used to looking over to the screen and kind of answering questions and stuff. So. No, I don't think that mechanical traditional special effects have taken kind of a backseat. I think it's the fact that it's like those, you have the talent, and the talent will, you know, to me, honestly, I've jumped to quite a few different fields because, you know, I adapted or died, you know, kind of stuff, but I changed. All that art came into stuff, and I think a lot of the movie industries are, you know, with the games, the movies, and everything, they're adapted, and they're just using the strengths in each area. There's no one way to kind of go about something. I know, like in ZBrush, there's like 4 or 5 different ways you can approach and attack that, you know, thing you need to get done. So the same thing with like CG and everything compared to traditional. I mean, it's when it's in the right place, you need to use it. Where CG fails, you know, traditional effects might take over and do it. And it's, that as an artist, you just need to sit there and, you know, be aware of. There is no one way to rule them all, you know what I mean? So, and, you know, yeah, I've seen some amazing stuff that I'm like, you think is CG, and it's not, it's traditional, so, and vice versa, so. So unless you specifically want to color in there, the shadows are naturally, yeah, well, I mean, the screen is kind of just, the material is affecting. So if I change this material, that will change the way this guy looks entirely and blend out. So, you know, right now if I go down to my flat color, you're just seeing what I've polypainted without any of the textures on top of it. So this is what I've just kind of slowly done. It doesn't look as pretty, you know, but I mean, this is where I can then take a look and blend out. Or if I just want to see how that transitions, then I can just go, okay, I want to paint in some more of this skin color to blend in that section. Now once I put that material on top of it, it's going to hide certain things, but with this I'm able to kind of see just, this is where my color is, and that's how it's blending. So transition this a little bit better, this down into the bottom of the ear, I'm able to see all this detail. I'm seeing exactly what's happening with when I'm painting. So here's some of the blues that I was talking about before. I can pick up that blue. I can see it a little bit before because I kind of lost it. And then I can kind of say, okay, well, on the cheeks, I want to kind of bring this a little bit, blend that over here. Maybe pick up some of that stuff. Here's the darker blue I had in that crevice. You're going to want to use it to blend into the back of the ear a little bit. So this is where, like, just the flat material, I'm seeing exactly what I have on my color, and the material is not affecting me. So let's say I want to get some of that dark blue into that little crevice section. Blend, and I can either blend by holding down the shift color, or just, you know, slowly build on top to, because life has a lot of subtleties. There's no really a lot of harsh transitions. And there's always kind of between two colors, there's always a third. I mean, it's like if you look at a corner, it's kind of like you see the light or the variation between those two colors. It's never just like stark red, stark blue. It's going to have the purple in between of the transition of the two colors. So, okay. So let's go back. Like I said, I've been painting with the ZBrush illustration paint now. Like, again, if I go to these different ones, I have a lot of different materials. Like, okay, he is now been shellacked, you know what I mean, and he is raring to go on the racetrack. You know, you got different materials will give you different looks and stuff. So there's some of the blue in the environment, you know. So you can, you know, use the traditional, where's it at? Flat color skin shader. So that's the skin shader. So it's pretty close to what I was using. I just, you know, using the ZBrush with just a little bit of blue into it. So, but that will change the way your character looks. I mean, and just like in the materials when you're sculpting, guys, when you change the materials, what you're painting, it really approaches, you know, your approach totally different. Because if I'm using this kind of color that has, let's say if it has, you know, this weird color from the material kind of coming into a tonal effect over top of my character, when I jump to something else, in my flat color, that's why it's always kind of nice to check your flat color to see what you're actually painting. Because it's going to change once you put the material onto it, and depending whatever material you kind of go through. So here if I got this little deviant, Shavant, whatever, now that green is in there, you know, it's giving me a weird wax. This color, the Z98 that I like for my material and sculpting, really changes the way that my color is affected. So I'm going to just call this done, guys. Unless there's something specific you guys want me to jump in and look at or ask a question, please do. Yeah, no, it's pretty nice when you kind of jump around to different materials. And like I said, if I come back here and I turn off that Polypaint and I go back to here my sculpt, you know, that color will really affect what I'm seeing. And now that I've kind of done this, all I would probably do is just keep defining my forms. I would get out of my alphas and stuff, and I would just probably go back in and continue just a little bit. Oops. And, you know, just defining out areas that I like. And just adding the little tertiary small details. Dang it. You know, because I kind of started doing that caterpillar, so you can kind of go, well, all right, he has a little bit of leaf feel to him. I mean, you want to have a story with your characters. Try to, you know, make them kind of interesting to where. So, and then once you kind of start telling, so maybe he eats leafy vegetables or whatever, and so he kind of has like a little flow of leaf detail from them that brings in, you know, and just, you know, who knows. And that's just going to define some of that area, and you can pick out a couple different things to them, and add maybe a little bit. I'm going to define this little section in the bottom area. Separate the eyelids again, because using that little thought process, maybe I might, you know, leaf up some of the veinage, you know what I mean? And so that just is all into the character, and you just can kind of keep going and building up. Maybe not that extreme. So, where's the body? I do not have the body. I started from ahead to kind of show some of the details. Polypaint, and sorry, I'm not that fast to do a body with it. Now, if I was just going to add a body, I would just probably append on a subtool and just, you know, start playing with that. So, I usually do. Usually, students just contact me, and I do one-on-one Skype tutorials and mentorships with them. I've taught classes where it's a little bit larger, but it's pretty hard to kind of control what everybody's kind of doing because there is a lot of other interest. I usually am very focused on what you need to learn to get into the game industry or even movies, because what you learn from games is very apparent to what you learn in the movies, except for in the games you're kind of like David Banner, you know what I mean? You're kind of constrained by texture size and poly counts and everything else, and when you get into the movie industry, there's a lot less restrictions, but all that talent and stuff goes on, and you just can kind of hulk out to do it. So it's kind of, you know, and just like with 3D printing and all that kind of stuff, you're restricted by what you need to bring into the table. So, I mean, doing something digital, like this guy right here, if I was going to 3D print it, I just would make it watertight and just print it. you know, just with supports on the bottom, and pretty much be done. But if I had different pieces that I had to cut and what could work, and then I'm going to take this to be reproduced and to in a silicone mold, then I have to be very aware that I have no holes. Like if I had the ear like with a hole through it, the mold would be stuck, and you'd have to kind of like peel it apart and cut it, and cause a little bit of problems. So you have to be very okay, thanks, Chris. I appreciate it. So everything on the face needs to be points in the middle of the face to dry the eyes? No, not necessarily. I mean, it's like if you, I was playing with those forms, but if you know, let's take a look at it with just the sculpt. So when I was playing with the, let's say if I start from this vein, I was kind of playing with the direction of the eyes, and again, I could actually bring that down a little bit more now that I have that sculpt kind of going where I want. You know, I was just trying to have your eye kind of flow through and around. You know, so if you see that it kind of jumps around and then comes back down, and by doing these right here, it kind of leads your eye down, but then I'm letting this muscle of the neck kind of lead your eye back up and around the back of the head, you know. And so it's sort of, that's just how I personally do it. I mean, I just kind of play with forms until I like some of the direction, and see if it's successful or not. And like I said, the happy accidents, and not saying that this guy's anywhere close to being done. I've only been on him for a couple hours. So, and it's just because I can take this guy and play with him a little bit more, and you know, because by bringing him down, like the brow down a little bit more, or that can change quite a bit of expression. And by changing expression, it changes the flow and the silhouette. And, you know, let's say if I want him to have a bigger back of the head, you know, that changes his look, you know, to where I actually like that shape. But maybe I might want to bring out his forehead just a little bit more to kind of balance the back of this, and all that kind of stuff. So it's just fun. There's no one way to do it necessarily. Nothing is ever, you know, 100% correct. Everybody's going to approach it differently, see it differently, and so. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, you want to ping me. Like I said in the Skype thing, you have my emails up there. Graham is up there as well. You can contact me through the Instagrams, and so there's quite a few different ways. But unless there's no other kind of questions, I think I'm good to go. I mean, I could keep on this guy for kind of a while, and I'm just going to be kind of playing with the shapes and stuff. Or what I would probably do is just jump onto this head right here and a different version of it, and just keep playing with it till I find something. I just play with more monsters and stuff. So, alright, you guys, I appreciate it. Thanks for joining me today, and drop me a line anytime. Okay, have a good one, guys. Absolutely.